What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of The Rose Show. I am your host, Jay. Who else but me? And today I've got a great one planned for you. Erick RedBeard is my guest, but we'll get to him here in a second. I got something I want to say. So it is time for Rose Rants. So today, before I get started, I just want to say one thing, because I'm sure I'm going to get all kinds of hate mail from certain groups of people for saying this, and I don't care. You tuned in to The Rose Show. I did not turn into your show, whoever you are. So today, I got to get this off my chest. I'm going to need someone to tell me why, for some reason, I have to accept all things Taylor Swift in my life now as if she is my Lord and Savior. Listen to me very closely here. I don't give a baker's dozen worth of fucks about Taylor Swift's music, seeing her on TV, hearing news stories about her. I don't give a fuck at all about anything she's doing. And it's hilarious because the zombie verse of people on social media want to sit here and try to say, oh, it's because you're an insecure man. Listen to me very closely here, because somebody has to say this shit. I don't listen to Taylor Swift. I don't care about her music. I don't care about any of that bubblegum pop shit, and I never have and I never will. It has nothing to do about being a man. If I was a woman, if you literally took me out of this body and kept my mind intact, put my soul in another person's body, I still would not give a fuck about Taylor Swift if I was a woman. Wouldn't give a fuck. I'm not into that shit. So why all of a sudden is it that I have to accept her in my face 24/7? Now listen, I'm a huge Bob and Tom Show fan. If you know anything about me, you know I'm a big fan of that show. If you don't know anything about it, it's a radio show. It's been on for a long time. I don't know what their syndication is like, especially these days. But day after day, I had to hear on the Bob and Tom Show, well, she's not on TV that much. Now here, let's go to a news story about what her and Travis had for dinner last night. I'm so fucking over it. It's constantly in your face, no matter what anyone else is saying. But yeah, let's keep pretending like I ain't got to see 50 posts in a row about how she's not on TV that much. Or I have to read 50 fucking news stories about Taylor's going to be at the game this weekend. Now, granted, we're not in football season anymore, so that's probably going to go away, especially since more than likely, let's at least pray to the gods, Travis Kelce is retiring this year, so we ain't got to see this woman anymore. But I'm not tuning in to the NFL to see what Taylor Swift's doing. I'm tuning into the NFL, quite frankly, to watch the Titans lose. I'm just being honest about that one. But it's just hilarious to me. Let me go ahead and say this for anybody else out there, okay? You don't have to accept Taylor Swift just because you have a vagina. The same is true on the other side. You don't have to do it just because people are saying the only reason why you don't like her is because you don't have one. You're a man. That's not true at all. We don't have to like Taylor Swift. We don't have to want to see Taylor Swift 24/7. I don't give a fuck if she was a dude, a dog, or a duck. I don't want to hear about this woman. I don't care about anything she's doing. She's a great humanitarian. That's awesome. I'm sure she's a lovely human being. Granted, she's broke up with more people than I've dated in my entire life, but that doesn't mean one way or the other that she's a good person or a bad person. I just don't want to hear about her. You know what I mean? And I saw this. This is the absolute top tier insanity that we have gone to as a country at this point. I'm going to show this post. Now, this isn't political, but this is from a political Facebook page. And I'm sure they're on all the other social media sites. I don't fucking know. But I saw this and my brain froze from the stupidity. I'm going to pop this up right now.
I can't take it anymore. I just want to die. We all want to die.
If you didn't watch the Super Bowl because of Taylor Swift, you aren't a football fan. You are a bigot. Really? You're a bigot because you didn't want to watch it because Taylor Swift was going to be all over it. Look, I know it's a normal occurrence to not want to watch the Super Bowl for me because my team's never in it. However, I really didn't want to watch it because I knew her face was going to be plastered all over it. So that makes me a bigot. Okay, cool. I'm a fucking bigot then. You know what? The word bigot has absolutely no fucking meaning anymore. None. All that is a political tool. That word is nothing more than a political tool anymore. And let me tell you why that makes me upset. And it has nothing to do with any kind of political indoctrination at all. For somebody who has experienced firsthand racism, firsthand, I live in Ohio, and I probably shouldn't say fuck it, I'm going to say it anyway. There is a district, I guess you could call it, where I live. It's called Miami East. It's a clump of like small towns, I think. I don't really know what the makeup of it is because I don't go there that often. But when I was about 15 years old, I went to a football game out there. And it was the first time I actually experienced actual racism. Me and my buddy Jason went out there. I forget the reason why, probably to see some girl. I don't know. But I walked out there and I noticed everybody was staring at me, and I didn't really know why. And it was just like a certain sect of people, not a lot. The kids were, for the most part, okay. But I kept seeing people stare at me, and it just confused me for the longest time. They had a dance after this football game, which we did attend, me and my buddy that I was there with. We did attend this game, or I'm sorry, the dance after the fact. Later, one of the people that were there were like, yeah, everybody was staring at you because you were dark. Now, I was much darker when I was younger than I am now. I tanned a hell of a lot more back when I was that young than I do now when I was out in the sun. And it threw me off because I was like, everybody was staring at me because of my skin color. That was the first time where I was like, is there something wrong with me? That's the first time in my life I ever questioned, is there something wrong with me? Because people were staring at me because, I was a darker complexion. And for the record, I don't think country towns are all racist. I've lived in one locally here before, and I was accepted more than I'd been accepted in big cities. I'm not even kidding. So the notion that just because you live in a small town, somehow that makes the entire town racist is incorrect. However, when I come across these situations where, there is an actual racist situation that I would like to address, people aren't going to take it seriously because now everything's racist. Everything's about bigotry. If you don't like Taylor Swift, you're a bigot. As a minority, that pisses me off to no end. You people who use that word as a political tool, you have made it impossible for people who actually deal with terrible situations to come forward and have anybody take them seriously because everything is bigotry. I don't like some bubblegum pop musician, who is a good person. Yeah, sure, whatever. She's a good person. I don't like her music, so therefore I'm a fucking bigot because I don't want her shoved down my throat 24/7. Fuck you. And I mean that from the depths of my soul. I don't conform to nothing, and I'm not going to start now because you want to make people feel guilty because they don't want to be into what you're into. It's so hilarious how the people who claim to be individuals today, more than the rest, want everyone else to conform to what they want. No, you don't have to like Taylor Swift. And hey, if you do like Taylor Swift, congratulations. I'm happy. I hope she's brought a lot of joy into your life. And I'm being dead serious when I say that. However, I ain't going to conform to that just because that's what you want. I don't give a fuck about Taylor Swift or her music, if I didn't make that clear already. And you don't have to either. But if you do, that's great too. However, don't tell me I have to. Anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox now and go ahead and transition to the next part of this. First, a word from our sponsors. Then we're going to go directly to my interview with Erick RedBeard. Stay tuned. All right, everybody, it's time to stop and let you know about today's sponsor of the show, Crazy Martin's in Piqua, Ohio, one of my favorite places in the entire world to go to. Crazy Martin's has provided their customers with quality products for over 20 years, from ashtrays to water pipes and everything in between. Stop in, check out their selection, and of course, check out their pinball machines. With over 20 pins to choose from, there is something for everyone. Crazy since 1996. I don't just say this about every place. I love going to Crazy Martin's. I've always loved going to Crazy Martin's ever since I was of age to go to Crazy Martin's. It's one of my favorite places in the entire world. Me and my wife go there almost every Sunday to play pinball machines. It is one of the funnest spots in Ohio you could possibly find. It is in Piqua, Ohio. Check out their website at www.crazymartins.com. is going on, everybody? It is that time again for another episode of The Row Show. And I'm actually pretty excited today because my guest today is a founding member of the Wyatt Family, a three-time WWE Tag Team Champion, in my opinion, one of the most underrated big man workers in the entire industry and the industry's ever seen. And fun fact, he's also the only active wrestler who my wife is terrified of because of the sheep mask. It's Erick RedBeard, my man. What's going on? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Not too bad.
Awesome.
Thanks for that introduction.
Hey, no problem, no problem. It's funny. My first episode that I ever did on this show was with Blue Meanie, and it seems like every time I get an intro like that, all the wrestlers are very appreciative of it. So I try to do my best to be as flamboyant as possible, and it helps that I was a front man of a band, so I'm kind of used to it, right? But your background, what exactly sparked your interest in professional wrestling in general?
I mean, it's funny because I didn't really think about it at the time, but like growing up, I was always into sports. So like I played football, you know, throughout high school, college. But like before that, I remember there's always being a fight because I liked to be in elementary school. I was like always like the leads and plays, and then I kind of gave that up for sports. And then, I liked band. I played the trombone, and then I wanted to start singing, so I joined this group in high school that like the choir like had a separate singing group you had to audition for. So I was like doing stuff that had like maybe a group of like 16 people doing a cappella sets and different things like that and getting solos. And I remember there was being a fight between my football coach and my singing group because sometimes they practice the same time. So the singing group was year round and football was just during the fall. But like there'd be clashes and fights, and I didn't want to get in the middle of all this and have to pick, one. So I ended up having to just pick, football. So I think fast forward when I started watching wrestling, I could see like everything kind of put together in one, and it's still a team effort within wrestling because you have your referee, you have your people involved in the match to put on the thing. So it's like three people in the ring need to put on this big product, but I think that's what it was, that entertainment aspect of blending, stunts and sports and acting. And, that's kind of it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you get into wrestling. What was it exactly where you were like, okay, or how, I guess is the better way to phrase this question. I saw in my research that you ended up training in Japan. How did you make that transition from moving from the States over there to start training?
Just you're working like matches, and you're kind of stuck in the same spot if you're not traveling all over, you're still trying to make it as a wrestler. And unfortunately, that's made in, tiny little armories, VFWs, county fairs. Not everybody can wrestle for a living. They have to get day jobs. And I remember there was a Harley race camp. So I went to that with Dinty Moore, who's Beer City Bruiser now. And we and another guy, I think his name was El Bato, the three of us loaded a car and went from, I was in Milwaukee at the time. So we went from Milwaukee down to Eldon, Missouri for Harley Race's camp. We each shelled out $500, which is a lot of money when you're a struggling wrestler trying to make it, but it was to invest in your future and to get a week-long tryout. They had Simon Dean was the head of WWE Talent Relations at the time, so he was going to be president at the camp, as well as people from Pro Wrestling Noah out of Japan. So it's just a good chance to get seen, and for anybody up and coming, there's so many people at the camp. There's no guarantee of anything. You're just shelling out $500 to kind of rub elbows and learn from the best. And luckily that I impressed the people at the dojo, and I think it was less to do with wrestling and ring, because in Missouri they have an athletic commission. You have to have blood tests and all sorts of stuff go through in order to get approved to wrestle. You do this week-long tryout, and they do like a showcase matches at the end. And I remember I got picked for the showcase match. So that's like, a validation of your hard work during the week and your talent. And so I was like, yeah, I got it. I got a thing. And then, there's a problem with your blood work. It didn't get faxed correctly. And I was like, no. And then I couldn't do the showcase show. So I spent all week, busting my butt, and I had to sit back and watch the show. And I'm just like, oh, there goes my chance. There goes my chance. But I think I impressed the Japanese representatives, because every day we would train for hours on end, and then everyone would just go home or relax or go to a beach or something. And I would go across the street, and I think Ace Steele owned like the gym because he worked with Harley. And I would go into the gym and I would work out, and it was empty, which is kind of strange considering it's a wrestling camp. And if we have off, we want to lift some weights. So I would be in the gym, and the only other people in there were the pro wrestling Noah representatives. So I think they saw that dedication, and later they asked me to come. I like to think that.
Yeah, sure. When you were training, and this is something I've always kind of been curious about, is there more of a hurdle being a wrestler your size, and like a learning process, or I guess learning curve is the correct way to say it. What is there certain learning curves you feel like you had to work extra at because you are so much bigger than the average human, or is everything kind of tailored to, the style?
For myself, it just takes time, and I think it had to do with, in my head I had all these different people giving me all these different things of what's right, what's wrong, what to do, what not to do, and at the end of the day, I know me, and I know what I like, and I know what I want to see, and it took a while to form into the style that I currently have. And I think that has to do with, like, I'm a big fan of realism,
Sure.
which sometimes lacks in professional wrestling. And when you get a guy that's 300 plus pounds that can move, that's 6'8", like going against people that can move equally as well, but are like half their body size, I start to think back to why UFC and MMA have weight limits, to be fair.
Sure, yeah.
So to me, how could you credibly lose and still, look strong?
Yeah.
And especially with, because in UFC, if a 300 pounder goes and fights in the 180 pound weight class and keeps losing, he's a really bad fighter. So I think just little parts of that and things like that, like, helps forms it. But you're always learning as a wrestler, as a professional wrestler, especially if you want to be a great one. And, I never stop learning.
Yeah, sure. That makes a lot of sense. And this is just my personal preference. Nobody attacked me over this. It's why I don't like intergender wrestling, is because it's like, man, I'm watching a dude kick a woman in the face like this. It takes me out of the moment almost. To your point with the realism aspect of it. And again, personal preference. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just, my personal preference. How do you feel about, does you feel the same way, or do you kind of give some leniency towards the intergender wrestling style?
I mean, I like watching like movies where, you get the female or the male, like beating up the woman. It happens. Like, so I'll watch movies and this stuff happens, and sometimes it happens in very realistic ways. So I appreciate the stunt aspect of all that. But I personally, I'm just not a fan of it. But again, I like the old school weight class style of wrestling, and it's not that it's wrong. Some people like it. I think wrestling deserves to have all sorts of different things, because that's what brings people to professional wrestling. Like, they like to see the comedy match, they like to see the intergender match, they like to see the death match. So, like, I think it all has a place, within a show. I wouldn't personally go to an all intergender match, wrestling, wrestling show, an all death match, wrestling show. But that's just me as, still kind of being a fan.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Well, one thing that was definitely real was you guys brought a lot of fear when you ended up really kicking things off in the WWE, which we'll get to that here in a minute. How exactly did you get into the NXT system?
So actually, I sent in a video for FCW Recruit, which led to a week-long tryout with Dr. Tom and Steve Kern. And then I was signed shortly after that. And then was it January 2011? I reported down to FCW in Tampa. And the NXT stuff didn't start till, maybe about a year and a half later when FCW kind of shut down and they started the program of NXT. Not the NXT with the seasons. When that kind of like ended, that's when they kind of formed like, hey, this will be the developmental brand, which they started filming in Full Sail.
Gotcha. Well, what you guys ended up doing, I was actually taking a break from my fandom in professional wrestling. It's weird. I'll go on like 5, 6, 7 year tangents where I just won't watch. But you guys actually brought me back. It was the Wyatt family. Go ahead and talk us through here a little bit about the creation of the Wyatt family, who was responsible for the idea, and how you got attached to the name.
So Wyndham came down, kind of defeated. They had the Husky Harris character, and basically wanted him to come up with something new, or they're going to get rid of him, and so he's got to come up with something new. So we tried like a couple different things. He starts cutting these promos, and eventually, like with Dusty, he starts doing this, like Cape Codish character, like cult leader without a cult. But I think while he was doing that, and it's kind of hard to remember how it all came. I know they did vignettes where it had John Harper and I think Eli Cottonwood was in one of them. Like, yeah, I wasn't involved in all that, but I know like eventually I was like doing promos because I was tagging with John out there, and so we would do some promo days together. And I remember we would do some that involved different things and elements of like groups and like kind of like Devil's Rejects, kind of like House of a Thousand Corpses, like family type stuff. So like
Yeah.
or like the Sawyer family from Texas Chainsaw, like so a lot of like horror elements within wrestling. And I remember just trying on, like I'd wear pajama bottoms with no top and like some weird mask or like a clown hat, like just odd weird things. And or just we would just do weird creepy promos. And but I think it was like when they announced John as like the first son and he actually debuted on TV. I think he went like 2 weeks of tapings because they always tape like 3 or 4 shows at once. So they had him at one taping where he debuted on a couple shows, and the next set of tapings, I think the day before, they said, "Hey, we want you as the second son." And then like I'm like, "Gosh, well, what do I wear?" I'm wearing trunks because they had put me in trunks. And I'm like, okay, can't wear those. Like, can't wear jeans. So luckily I had a pair of old green coveralls that I cut the sleeves off of, like with a big yellow stripe across the chest. But it worked. And that's kind of how it all kind of got put together. But it was all kind of last minute with me, at least. Because I know John was involved in some of those early promos.
Yeah, it seems like the way you described it, just kind of finding whatever you could find last minute, I feel added to the realism. And again, when I saw you guys, I was at a friend's house for a Royal Rumble shortly after. I think you guys had just gotten called up. Um, and the Rumble is always something, even if I'm not paying attention, I always watch. It's my favorite event of the year. I prefer the Rumble over even WrestleMania. I love the overall feel of the Rumble, right? So I went to a friend's house to watch it, and I saw you guys, and it immediately caught my attention. And what I was referring to in the intro is, obviously later I was actively watching again, and I bought, I think it was WWE 2K16, I think. And this was when you guys were doing the intro where, the lights would just pop on, there was no music, and you would walk out with the sheet mask. And my then girlfriend, now wife at the time, was asleep in the bed behind me, and she was awakened to "He's got the whole world," and you are standing there in video game form, but you're standing there with the sheet mask on. It literally made her jump out of bed. That's how terrified she was. So now, if she sees the sheet mask at all, whether it be in an event, whatever, you are ingrained in her brain, and she's absolutely terrified. So it definitely worked. It definitely worked. Well, something else that really left an impression on me, and is one of my favorite tag teams ever, to be honest, was the Bludgeon Brothers. I think this group was very, 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 very underrated as far as the importance and just how well put together it was. Did you guys? Who came up with the idea of the Bludgeon Brothers?
Vince. And
Hmm.
so Vince came up with the concept of the Bludgeon Brothers, the name. I remember we went into a pitch meeting because he wanted to use us together, but he wanted to kind of repackage us kind of away from the hillbilly thing that we were doing. And I remember going to some of his creative meetings, and they would they would spend all this time and have these pictures with what they envision us wearing, and it was literally like, do you remember what Demolition used to wear in the early days with the leather straps and kind of what they put Karrion Kross in during his first run? That's kind of the pictures they showed us of what they wanted. And they wanted us to carry around these big hammers, is what he called them. He didn't call them sledgehammers, but he called them just like mallets, just stuff to be able to smash people with. And I was like, because you're gonna bludgeon them. But that was the only kind of creative things they had. So I was just kind of sick of a lot of stuff at the time, and I know John was just kind of defeated at the time as well. So because that was around the time we were starting to pitch stuff for ourselves, and everything was just getting denied, and we were being more vocal, backstage about what we wanted to do. And so I just remember taking what he had, and I went to some friends, and one was a designer, and I had her drop a mock thing for what I wanted the bludgeons to look like. And then I had another friend, Jason Baker, who made my latex lamp masks, and he later made Wyndham's Fiend mask. But I went to him and I was like, they want us to have these hammers. Can you make mine look like a Majora? Can you make his look more like a Sledge-O-Matic from Gallagher? And then put Norse runics on it, because I wanted to have I'm Nordic, and I like the themes of the old Norse ways. So we put runics of our kids' names on our hammers to make them more individual. And then with the outfits, they kind of went back and forth with what we wanted until we got that, especially with the aesthetics of the masks and the hoods. And then I remember this was the only time I ever had a chance to have a say with the music. So I gave a lot of old folk metal that didn't have lyrics. So we went back and forth to the music department until we got the music. So I was happy with the presentation. The costumes weren't exactly what I wanted exactly, but I had John's blessing with it to get the permission to do all that. He trusted me at that point to try to figure out what to do. So I was happy with all that.
Yeah, I think the music really made it pop. That dun 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 dun, bam! I just gives you that kind of almost. I mean, I'm sure this is probably what it was designed for, but kind of like the dun, 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 that's almost what it felt like as you guys were coming out. And was that mask that you wore for that, was that fairly uncomfortable? Because it looked like that thing was a beast.
It was very comfortable. And
Really?
yes, it gets put on. You can see, you can breathe. It's a lot better than the early, like, like plastic ones where I couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
One thing I did like about that run is I was able to finally talk him into getting that mask made, uh, the wolf mask, which I basically showed him a picture of Willow's the movie. There's the bad guy
Yeah.
with the skull mask. And I was like, that
Mm-hmm.
would that be awesome, but with like a like a wolf. So like I was very happy with how that turned out for him, and he was very happy with it too.
Yeah. I was very sad to see that, go away when it did. 'Cause, man, that I love that presentation. And I don't think I ever got a chance to see it live. I live in Dayton, Ohio, and at the time we weren't getting a lot of events. Like every once in a while, somebody would come to the Nutter Center, but it was so few and far in between. So I didn't get a chance to really catch it live, which was kind of disappointing. But overall, I saw that. I know you said that you were in band a little bit ago, but I also saw you play guitar. Now, again, I was in a band, so I love talking music with people. And you wear a lot of, especially these days, you wear a lot of band shirts. When you're on TV and doing your shows. I gotta ask because I always gotta ask every metalhead fan one thing. You have 3 albums you can listen to for the rest of your life. What are they?
Oh,
I'm putting you on the spot, bro. I'm putting you on the spot.
so Amon Amarth's Fate of the Norns. I can listen to that
Mm,
up and down. Oh man, you're really killing me here though,
I
because
know.
I hate to decide, and like my musical tastes change
Sure.
every day. Uh, Probably Rainbow, the self titled, yeah,
Nice.
self titled Rainbow. And then I get one more. So this isn't fair because now I have to like calm my mood down to even more, and I'm like, I'll probably say Solstifer's probably the Farah album.
That's fair. That's fair.
And
Who
I
is it? Who?
and
What
I think
band? What?
that's just my own personal right in this moment. And
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Hey, I have weird taste as well. I just got hip to a band called Wind Rose, and they're a dwarf
dwarf
metal,
metal,
like Jay. Dude, you know about them then?
Diggy Rose, man.
Oh, bro, I literally just saw a video from them last week. I've gotten people at my job on them. My wife is now in love with them. My wife's parents in love with them. Holy shit. Fellows of the Hammer, that goes hard. If anybody's watching this and you haven't listened to them yet, look up Fellows of the Hammer and you will flip your shit. It is incredible. So I'm with you on that, man. My taste switched quite a bit. What band have you seen the most?
Have I seen the most? I mean, probably because my wife, you know, is a fan as well. Probably within the last few years, probably Hatebreed's probably the most, but they tour a lot, so it's up there with the Monomarth, Hatebreed, and Lamb of God,
Oh,
like
nice. Hell yeah.
because they tour so much, so you're always able to see them with other people. I think Slipknot had been on a bunch of tours too, so like, and I'm talking about like at least 5 or 6 times
Yeah, sure.
the
Sure.
last couple of years.
Have you ever played in a band yourself?
No,
No.
no, but you know, I don't think I'm a good enough guitarist to do it. I'm
Okay.
decent enough to fill in for like a rhythm for one easy song, but as far as like doing anything, no. Like, but yeah, that would be fun to sub in for something sometime or do vocals, which I'm capable of for at least one thing, one project, one day. We'll see.
Oh yeah. Well shit, hit up Windrose because when they play Diggy Diggy Rose, they let everybody on stage anyway, so you could just jump on there and start taking over, man. That's definitely a band I gotta see sooner than later. I don't know. It's a lot of my dorkdom, I guess, is just I love Lord of the Rings anyway, so getting on them is crazy.
So
But
if
that's
you
so
like
cool.
Windrose, you know about Ailstorm then, correct?
I don't.
So Ailstorm is fantastic. I recommend them to everybody. It's a pirate metal band. They are awesome. They are awesome. I try to check them out every chance I get to. I'm good
So
friends
it's like
with the bass.
ale
I'm good
as
friends
in
with
the
the bassist
drink.
of that band, so I always push them.
Nice. It's ale like the drink, like a drink ale storm.
Yes, and
Okay.
every song is pirate related. Their mascot's a big inflatable rubber duck. It's a great show.
That is awesome. Okay, as soon as I get off of this call, I'm going to look them up. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you taking this short time to talk with me today. As we wind down here, I just kind of wanted to get your background. I didn't want to bring up some of the obvious stuff, but my condolences. I know it's been a rough couple of years. At least wanted to say that right off the rip. If there's that you kind of want to plug at this point, the floor is yours, my man.
Now that the strike's over, I guess you can check me out in a couple things. If you're a Mary Kingstown fan, watch that on Paramount Plus. You might see my mug on a few episodes. Otherwise, I think you should leave on Netflix. Watch that show; it's hilarious, and I might pop up on that show as well.
Awesome. Well, again, my brother, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me, and it's been a pleasure.
All right, man. Have a good one.